Hey guys, Jason here, 3Nines Technologies. Welcome to the podcast, episode number 3. So today I've asked Brad Coates to jump in and talk about spam filtering. Yes, it sounds boring, but I promise you it's not. It's way more in depth and a lot more interesting than what you may think. It's not just some Arabian prince wanting to give you $2 million to help them with a transaction anymore. Hackers have gotten very sophisticated in their approach in trying to attack your email, and that's where 90% of all hacks start from, is in the email. So Brad Coates is going to get into that. But hey, really quick, I just wanted to say that this podcast is specifically for you. It is for you, your business, and it's an educational piece that we wanted to give you as a value for being a 3Nines customer. There is a lot going on in IT, and the industry is changing a lot, so we want to make sure that you stay up to date. Think about it like this. Here in Oklahoma, we're all a bunch of amateur meteorologists, right? As soon as spring hits, we know what to look for. We hear hook echo, we hear supercells, we hear all these things, and we know what it means. Very much IT is the same way. My hope is to give you some education, to let you guys be amateur IT people, to understand the threats, to understand the processes of IT, and how to educate yourself to make sure your business is running efficiently and securely. So that's a whole bit about this podcast. Once again, we're not trying to sell anything. We just want to give you education. All right, let's get ready for Brad. Here we go. Hey, Brad, welcome to the podcast. As one of our directors of engineering, once again, like all of you guys, I know you're crazy busy. So thanks for taking a few minutes out of your day to talk about spam filtering and how it applies to our cybersecurity strategy for businesses. So, Brad, let's start with the question of the day. What is spam filtering?
Well, that's a great place to start, Jason, and thank you for having me on this episode too. That's a great place to start the conversation because really, when you think about spam filtering, a lot of folks think about the traditional spam attacks that we've seen for years since the email was created, right? And that is just junk mail showing up in our mailbox. And that is really an important piece. I mean, we don't want all that junk mail. That takes our time and our team's time to process through those messages and delete them, get rid of them. We don't want to consume time that way. But there's a lot more to attacking someone via email. In fact, they estimate that 90% of cyber attacks come in via email, or originate via email. Kind of a crazy statistics to think about.
Whoa.
The follow-up to that is that the median successful attack value is $260,000. Kind of crazy, right? A lot of money there.
Well, you wouldn't think just like junk emails from Nigerian prince wanting to give you $1 million would equate to that much of an impact.
Yeah, we all see those and we think, really, if I'm going to be honest, we think, okay, how could I ever fall for that message? You know, they're clearly fake. But the difference is that they're actually getting quite effective today at delivering messages that look very legitimate. So you still get those that look fake, that you can easily tell that are fake. But they're very, very good at creating and crafting messages today and sending them to people that people look at and think are legitimate. And they're getting quite clever at how they do that. For example, they might go out and register a domain name that looks very much like yours. So for example, we've got 3ninestech.com. They could go out and register 3nines.com or something along those lines that would look similar, that would look official, if you will, right? And then send us emails. We might look at that and think that that's a real email. And there's all different ways they might attack you. So one of the big ones today, and that results in a lot of loss, is what we call a phishing email. But that's where they're trying to get information out of you. So they're looking to either get you to do something like complete a financial transaction that might give proceeds to them in some fashion, or they're looking to get you to give them your password, say, for your email account, for example, so that they can create further attacks based upon that. So we're no longer looking at just those emails that come from the Nigerian prince who wants to give you money, right? We're now looking at all sorts of emails that come in and they attack you in different ways and they can look quite legitimate. So the days when we could just recognize and spot a spam and delete it and move on are gone. Right? We need to have tools that enable us to combine those tools. And I say that because tooling is not enough. We really need to have tooling combined with proper training and education of our staff, right? But we need to combine that training and education with the right tools that help augment that to make our environment or email environment more secure and more safe for us.
Man, Brad, so many good points in there. First off, let's talk about the different types of spam or phishing emails. A big one that I see on a regular basis is those emails that are spoofing other websites. So you'll get an email, hey, click on this link, and then you click on that link to link. You think it's LinkedIn or social media or even like a SharePoint account. You click on it. It goes right to a website. It looks exactly like that website. And the URL may be one letter or number off or something. And then all of a sudden you log in with your email credentials. Well, boom, you just given away the keys to the lock, right? And you're right. They are getting much more effective at overcoming those, where people just automatically, delete. Well, they're getting so good. It's very real. We also hear about Microsoft, Google, even Yahoo. They have spam filtering built in. Why would somebody want to go with a different spam filtering versus what is offered natively in their email?
That's a great question, Jason. And I do hear that quite a lot. We actually look at these spam filter tools and they are pretty decent, right? I mean, you see companies like Google, companies like Microsoft, they're really good at what they do. But at the same time, when you look at security and consider the security needs, you're really looking at a need for someone to create a product that is purpose built and very specific to that specific application, right? So rather than having a one size fits all, here's a tool, we do a little bit of spam filtering, we do some email, and we do 1,000 other things, we want to focus on those security companies that are focused right on that security objective, and that they're looking at those with a critical eye and helping to protect your email better. The others do an okay job, but they don't do a great job of protecting you from just the junk mail to start with, but then all of the malicious activity that comes in along with that.
Yeah, that's awesome, bro. What about, you have some filtering that's available, but then there's additional layers of filtering. Like I know here at 3Nines, we have a couple of different filtering products that we sell, kind of a stack that work together. What is the strategy there?
Absolutely, absolutely. So with any time we're talking cybersecurity, Jason, we think about a multi-layered approach. That means we're going to use different tools for different objectives, right? So just like we have our endpoint detection and response software on our computer, that's what we traditionally called antivirus, the software that runs on a computer and protects it. That computer, or that software, is designed to find behavior that's abnormal that's running on your computer and stop that activity. Well, that activity doesn't apply to email. Email's a different animal. And often those emails coming in wanting you to click on a link don't run programs on your computer, so they can't stop it. Well, we have the same thing here at 3Nines. We dub them mail security, which is our base level, right? And then we have mail security plus, which is our enhanced level. We have the same thing when we talk about email security. So what we call mail security, the base level, is that mail security gateway that basically sits between your mail server and the internet. And so any emails that are sent or received from your system come through that mail security gateway, and they're processed against a whole bunch of different criteria. So they might be processed through a block list that's known bad senders, right? They might be processed through what we call basically real-time block lists that are published on the internet and are aggregated and used by every organization in the world to identify those malicious sources of email. They might go through an antivirus check, which checks any attachments or files that are on the email for malicious activity. They might go through a link checker to look at the links and identify if those are going to try to take you to some place that's doing something bad or malicious for you. But they're going to go through a number of those checks along with the spam check and a basic phishing test to see if the email looks like it's legitimate. And they use the content of your email. They look at the server where it came from. They look at the sender and the receiver and all of the characteristics of the email to try to figure that out. And then if they believe it's legitimate, they deliver it to your mailbox. Now, If you want beyond that additional protection, we have a product that we call Mail Security Plus, which is our spam gateway that we just talked about, that email security gateway, plus an enhanced artificial intelligence powered product that will actually monitor how you're sending and receiving emails. So, Jason, for example, this product will look at all the emails that you send or receive. And if you send me an email pretty regularly and we exchange emails, it's going to learn that pattern. And then if all of a sudden you get an email from Brad Coates that's from a different email address, it's going to recognize that variance and say, whoa, this looks suspicious. And it's going to throw up alerts for you and allow you to see, recognize it, intercept that. Because we all know that today's world, we move fast, right? We move really fast. And so when we're looking through emails, we often don't take the time to expand out the headers and look really in a detailed fashion at the email addresses and things there. So it's going to help us with that process. Now, again, I go back, there's no substitute to good training for your staff, right? But we augment the training with these tools like Mail Security and Mail Security Plus. And then we take the modern technology, the artificial intelligence, and we apply that to our behavior with email. And that allows us to get a really, really fine picture of what is happening and what should be happening and protect against those malicious things. And then if an email in either system comes out and says, hey, this looks suspicious, it will either get quarantined in the Mail Security Gateway so that the person can review it, or in the case of the enhanced filter, it actually notifies us and we carefully review those messages as well. So multi-layered approach, right? That's always multiple layers to the security. So.
I had no idea that email needed so many different layers of security. But I guess, like you said earlier on in the beginning of this podcast, that what was that statistic of how many breaches happen with email?
Believe it or not, they say 90% of cyber attacks originate via email. It's crazy.
Wow. So if we were just to put some good safeguards and levels of protection on the email, we are really going to reduce that risk of an exposure of a breach or an attack drastically.
Absolutely, absolutely. As a longtime IT professional, I really look at a couple of pieces of cyber defense as being critical to the organization. I know I've said this a couple of times, but definitely the training piece is important. But when we look at tools, then your endpoint detection response, which we mentioned, the antivirus software is absolutely critical. And then protecting your email is absolutely critical. Now, each organization may take a little bit different approach to how much they need to protect their email, like which tools they want to apply to that. But protecting that in some fashion is absolutely essential to protecting your organization and yourself.
Yeah, it's a risk conversation for our businesses that are watching this, right? It's like the more tools and the more education we do, the lower your risk is, but that also includes an increased cost. So it's the cost versus risk analysis that really a business has to determine whether or not it makes sense for them, but also determines whether or not they have to match any sort of compliance like NIST or HIPAA and that sort of thing, because a lot of those will have regulations on what type of security they have to have in place. As you're right now watching this and you're thinking about what level of security do I need for not only my email, but for my whole system, if you are under any sort of regulations and compliance, that's a great place to start to understand what is required of your business. Brad, is there anything else that you can think of? Man, you really kind of covered it all, I think, in a really short amount of time. Is there anything else that you can think of that we should know about spam filtering?
The thing I'll say to that, Jason, is we talked about a lot of content here in just a few minutes. The thing I'll say is that if we are completing if we're executing business, I'll say it that way. If we're executing business using email as a tool, then it's essential that we not count on the default built-in tools that we're using. They're provide a little bit of protection, but nowhere near adequate protection for most organizations. I'll throw you out an example. I had a client here a few months ago that had an incident where they received an attack. It was a phishing type email that was attacking them, and they emailed it to an executive in the organization, and they created this very convincing email. And they convinced this executive to wire nearly $200,000 to what he thought was a vendor, but it turned out it was not. So, you cannot be lackadaisical around your cybersecurity. You really have to take this seriously. Each organization may warrant different levels, but every organization should consider and determine what is right for them and what they need to do to protect themselves from these types of attacks.
Yeah, in knowing what the pricing is, it's really not that expensive to offer this amount of security. Well, Brad, thank you so much for today. Thank you for diving in, giving us your time and knowledge, extensive knowledge on this subject. And Brad, once again, more than grateful. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Jason. It was my pleasure.
All right, that's it for us today, guys. I hope you got a ton out of this podcast. You learned about spam filtering and why you should definitely consider it for your business. And if you do have any questions about how it specifically can apply to your business, how it can apply to your email, please reach out to us. Our number is 405-488-8000. My personal extension is 111. Feel free to give me a call, as well as you can go to our website, 3Nines.tech.com. Lastly, there's a couple of buttons down below. If you would like to schedule a time to review the security of your business, click on that. That gives you access to my calendar. As well as lastly, there's a button down there that says email me. Click on that to send me a direct email. So there's lots of different ways to reach out to us. All right, that's it for us. You guys have a great day. See you on the next episode.